Good morning. Good morning. Greetings, one and all. I am the Reverend Doug Watkins. I am your interim lead minister, and I want to welcome you, whether you are here in our sanctuary or watching from home, to Eliot Unitarian Chapel, a liberal religious congregation of spiritual seekers centered in our desire to live a more meaningful and truthful life in the midst of deep interconnection and the power of love. If you are visiting us for the first time, we are very glad that you've come. I hope that this service speaks to you and that you will feel warmly welcomed. You should have received a guest form if you are here on your way in. We invite you to please fill it in, both sides if you have kids, and leave it in the collection plate. This will help us stay in touch. If you're visiting us online, you can drop us an email at welcome@eliotchapel.org, and we can personally welcome you from there. After the service, we have 2 coffee hours. Here at Eliot, please join us for coffee hour in Adams Hall. And if you are a newcomer, we invite you to grab a blue mug so that our members and friends will be sure to welcome you. And if you are a continuing part of the congregation, look for those blue mugs so that you can say hello. Join us, just sign up for communications, and if you want to be part of the Zoom coffee hour, that is at 12:30, and if you sign up for our communications, we'll make sure that you get a link next week. There are a lot of things going on here, and we remind you that we are still in the midst of our end-of-the-year ask, and every dollar that we are able to get out of that ask makes a difference in moving forward. So if you've not yet been able to give, whatever you're able to do will help a lot. And we will have a board table set up to help you out with the survey that is looking for potential folks for our search committee. Very exciting. And also they're beginning to already think about trivia night and are looking for folks who want to help make that very fun event a part of our life. So go to the board table during our coffee hour. As we move forward into our service, we always begin with the chalice lighting. Chalice lightings are a reminder of the symbol of being a beacon of truth, of the warmth of our connection, of the fire of all that we are committed to do in our lives. And so, as we spark our flame, Gretchen Haley writes, "Whatever you have come in anticipating, whatever you expect or worry for our world, for the future, for our lives, for a few minutes, let it go. Make space in your heart to be surprised. Make room in your soul for a new story to take shape. Let astonishment be possible." This life remains a miracle. Imagine here the bursting of joy, relentless and resilient, coming in waves, washing over us with music and story, silence, and still this dreaming together, being hope for each other and courage to believe in this new day dawning for us all. We light this chalice in the spirit of the third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. I invite us to rise in all the ways that we do and join our voices in song, as together we sing "My Life Flows On" in endless song.
I hear the
Unitarian Universalist congregations are covenantal gatherings. We make promises to each other about how we will be together and what it is that holds us together. I invite us to join our voices together in our covenant printed in the order of service, as together we say, "As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be. To listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart, to speak responsibly and respectfully, to find ways to improve our church for all members and friends." Welcome, Scott.
Good morning, nice to be back. Our time for all ages this morning is about the astronomer Maria Mitchell, who was born into a Quaker family in 1812, and our story begins in Massachusetts in the year 1830. And you will find a picture of Maria. There's one or two per row, so in the spirit of holiday spirit, we can share with the other friends on our row. Maria always remembered the day in 1830 when she helped her father time an eclipse of the sun. She used the chronometer to count down to the exact second that the moon began to block out the sun. Her father needed to send the timing report to his astronomer friends at the big Harvard University Observatory, where they were collecting eclipse information from all over.
Her father said, that is, there will be another eclipse like this in 54 years.
"I'm 12 now, and I'll be 66 then," exclaimed Maria. She wondered how astronomers could know so far ahead what would happen in the sky. She decided she wanted to study the universe and asked her father, "Can only men be astronomers?"
Well, Father thought for a moment while Maria watched his face anxiously. He knew no matter how smart a girl was, she could not get into any college in the United States to study astronomy. Only boys were allowed to go to college in those days. Finally, he said, "There are no women astronomers in America. There are only a few of them in the entire world. But I do think it is possible, Maria. I will teach you all I know about astronomy. You will need to study mathematics, which is as important to astronomy as the telescope. Yes, I do think it is possible. You could be an astronomer."
Maria spent long hours studying geometry and trigonometry in a tiny room at the foot of the attic stairs. She spent most of her evenings studying the sky with the telescope and keeping careful records of the stars. One night, she saw a fuzzy spot through the telescope that she had never seen before. Could it be a new comet? "Father, come up and look quick."
"You discovered a comet above the North Star. We must write immediately to the Harvard Observatory and tell them. A comet is named for the person who discovers it first, but the discovery doesn't count unless it is reported to an observatory."
They wrote the letter that very night, but to their dismay, a storm at sea delayed the mail in leaving the island for 2 days. The King of Denmark had promised a gold medal to the first person who discovered a comet that could be seen only through a telescope. Would Maria miss getting the medal because her report was late? Finally, one day, a package arrived for Maria. It was the gold medal. Now she was famous. She was the first woman in the world to have a comet named after her.
Well, women all over America were so proud of Maria that they collected money for a new, larger telescope for her. How incredibly excited she was. Now she could learn so much more about the planets and the stars. Well, Maria's life changed even more in 1865 when a wealthy man named Matthew Vassar had the courage and the forethought to start a college for women. Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York. Matthew Vassar wanted Mariah to come and teach astronomy. She could have an observatory with the third largest telescope on the continent.
"Father, how can I do this?" said Mariah softly, trying to keep her voice from trembling. "I've never even been to college myself." She was also thinking, and if I'm not any good at it, then people will say, "This proves that women have no business teaching in colleges."
Well, her father said, "You can do it, and you can do it well. You should have no fears."
And her father was right. Mariah's students loved her. The other professors just expected students to sit and listen to them talk, but Mariah taught her students to question everything, experiment, and think for themselves.
Well, it's the case that new comments are not really headline news anymore. And fortunately, thanks to pioneers like Mariah, neither are women astronomers. And yet there continues to be work to make sure that more and more young women all over the world are able to pursue whatever careers that they feel speak to them most deeply. Side by side with male colleagues, they fight disease, predict weather, design computers, continue to discover comets. I think Mariah Mitchell would be pleased. So today, we will think about the various things in our life that help us have that courage and that sense of direction. And in sort of keeping with Mariah, the idea that those are stars that help guide us forward in our lives. So I'm excited that we're able to tell the story of how one young woman found that guiding star, both in the support of her family, her own passion, and all of the incredible skill and knowledge that she brought and was able to learn even more about. So I'm glad we shared the story. I look forward to hearing what happens in religious education today.
Children may exit at the back.
So our prayer this morning is taken from the writing of J. Wolin. I often like to give a shout out. Jay actually is the minister that is now in Sarasota, where I served just last year. So thinking about the past, but also looking forward to the future. His prayer is entitled, Nourished. When I look up into the night sky, I am in awe of all that is. There in a faraway galaxy, a star has died, yet it is still bright for my eyes to see and make a wish upon. When I walk in the ocean, I feel the waves rush across my feet, and I feel a certain peace with the world. I peer out into the endless horizon, knowing they came from a place beyond where I can see. When I sit around the fire, I feel its warmth enter me without ever touching me, and I feel safe from the unknown. Whenever I take in a breath, and I know I am in the present moment. All of these wonders that move us, make us feel alive, and make us dream and wonder, let us protect them so that my children, our children, everyone's children, grandchildren, for generations upon generations will also have the chance to look beyond the horizon and marvel at the wonder of existence and continue to be nourished by our home, the earth. For just a moment before we leave this meditative time, what is it that you carry in your heart, in your mind this morning? may we take just a few moments of quiet. But before that, if there are folks that are in your heart and mind that you would like to lift up, I invite you to speak their name now. May deep breathing lead us into a couple of moments of quiet to do with as our heart needs most. For all that is our life, we offer our deepest presence and open ourselves to the great mystery around us. In the name of love, we hope and pray. Amen, and blessed be. Remaining seated, may we join in 1059. May your life be as a song. Our offertory is a chance in the service to consider deeply our connection with the life around us, the gifts that we are given, and how we feel in our own heart of hearts with the way that we are taking that abundance and offering it as a gift back to the world. We give you an opportunity to do that here every month as we share the plate with an important local organization doing good work. And this month, A Room at the Inn is our recipient. Many of you have talked about A Room at the Inn, and I will speak a little more about that later on. It is a shelter for women, children, and families who are homeless. And their purpose is to help families get into a home of their own and equip them with the tools that they need to prevent them from becoming homeless again. So I hope that we, as our offering is given and received in that spirit of abundance and compassion, will will be very generous in our offering. May it now be given and received in such a spirit. So now, let us bring our gifts back to the front and offer our blessings for them in our dedication of our gifts. That's found printed in your order of service. As together we say, to the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Thanks to all of you for your generosity. So today's reflection is in two parts, and I begin by sort of setting the stage for what I hope that we will do together this morning. One of the most wonderful things about growing up in the South had to be the gentle enchantment of long, warm summer nights. Now, in truth, they weren't always enchanting, and they were more than warm some of the time, but sometimes they were absolutely magical. And especially, I remember as a child visiting family and lying out with my cousins in the Appalachian Mountains and watching the night unfold from blankets on the front lawn. The lightning bugs danced around us, and the stars inspired us to imagine, to think about our lives, past, present, and future, what we wished for our lives, what we hoped they would be when we grew up. This starlight took us to another place, a level of wonder and possibility. And I wouldn't have put it together then, but there is a sort of significance in participating in such a reverie that has enlivened and enraptured human beings for eons. Such ponderings has reminded us human beings of our possibility, and in a helpful way, sometimes our limitations as well. It has long invigorated the imagination, so much so that we've even projected patterns and images onto the stars of heroes and legends in our constellations. Furthermore, perhaps as old, in human exploration, stars have helped guide the intrepid, literally, the lonely and the lost alike, as they sought to orient themselves on the journey and in the realm of deeper dreaming in the night. They quickly learned that a familiar single star alone could offer direction, but to really know how to navigate more accurately, it would take the interrelationship of many stars to increase the accuracy. So, running with that metaphor rather loosely, I decided a few years ago in serving congregations, since I had spent so much time listening to you about what you felt was powerful and meaningful in your lives and in the life of the congregation, why not offer some sense of what I heard you saying to me about the powerful, the guiding ideas that are a part of the congregation. But as importantly this morning, the thing is that the real purpose of a congregation is both as a community to decide where you will go together, but the more common thing we do over and over again is help individuals sort through their own lives, their own daily, weekly journeys, and try to make some sense of it all and decide what to do next. Both of those things benefit from remembering the sort of ideals, possibilities, thinking, hopes that guide us forward and give us a sense of direction. So I decided several years ago to offer a certain number, 5, of some guiding stars that I heard from you about yourselves. And I decided to focus on more than 1 or 2 because I think it's important for us to have an interrelated constellation of potential meaning and direction that more fully helps us think about what we want to do, both in the here and now and in the future. But on the other hand, I didn't want to give too many because I think it is important to choose wisely the few things that feel really most important, especially when we are in times where we feel overwhelmed or a little bit lost, and to reflect on those few stars that help us guide our way through the wilderness, or perhaps, to use another metaphor, the sea in which we currently float or flounder. So, it is good to turn to stars and star-like truths when we need to know deeper wisdom about life. And it's also very much in keeping with an important concept that interims use in their work, the idea of appreciative inquiry. Now, this isn't really a process of appreciative inquiry, but some of the core principles are very much at the heart of almost everything we do together, and certainly help us get more from thinking about guiding principles. In brief, appreciative inquiry believes that the words that we use create worlds, that the words help us understand more fully the world in which we live, and we are social creatures that use language and conversation to help us fill out that reality. Secondly, that by being curious and by asking questions, we help create change. But it is important, number 3, that we choose carefully what we intend to explore with our questions. And one of the things that we have learned is that by choosing more carefully, we make a significant difference in what may be possible for us in the future. And so we choose what it is that we decide to explore. The next principle is that exploration doesn't just remain in our thoughts. The way that we question, the things we choose to turn our energy and our time to, make a big difference in how we act and what we do with our lives in the world. And so what we discovered is that and it really kind of makes sense that this would be true, that if you spend a great deal of time focusing only on the problems in your life and what is broken, while that is important and never goes away, if that's all you do, you spend almost all your time in reparation, in looking at the past, in focusing on what needs to be cleaned up or made whole. Not that that's bad, but we also need to dream towards the future. And so by thinking about what is already strong within your own life or within the life of this congregation, it helps us think more about possibility, what it is that we want to give more time and energy to, because it's part of what gives us life and helps us know ourselves better. So, in a few moments, I'll share what it is that I heard you tell me. But in the meantime, I invite you first to think about what are your shining stars? What are the things that you turn to, the ideals, the great teachers, your own inner strengths? For a moment, as we listen to the music, I invite you to think about those. And if you want to, many of you still have Mariah Mitchell's image somewhere around you. Maybe jot a few of those guiding stars to help you think as we move forward. More in a moment. So let me briefly share with you the 5 shining stars that I've heard from you, but a little caveat that I'll repeat at the end because it happens every time. I am happy to discuss with you your disagreement with the 5 shining stars that I present to you. But I really don't matter that much. I will go away in a couple of years. What's more important is how you want to live more into what you find to be deeply meaningful. And if you want to talk to other people about that importance, I encourage you to do that. But I'm also happy to hear what you believe as well. So number 1, over and over again, what people told me really was a guiding light in this gathering was the community itself. Richard Gilbert wrote, "I found deep meaning in the Hebrew phrase tikkun ha'olam, which means repair the world. For surely the world, wonderful as it is broken." And in one of his essays, Emerson said that there is a crack in everything that God has made. Gilbert submits that one of the central missions of the Unitarian Universalist movement is to try to address these cracks, repairing the world and creating beloved community of love and justice. So many of you talked to me about how important this community has been in your lives in so many different ways. In the way that it creates a sense of connection and social fun and deeper meaning in the midst of that. And you told me of things from Women's Alliance to the Madrigal to the game nights and potlucks and Bergfried nights and the Seders and the Men's Advance. So many things that you found deeply joyful and connective. But also, as importantly, many of you talked about how in the hardest times in your life, it was folks from this congregation that gathered to your side to support you and be with you and love you in that hard time. And so that is one shining star. And in the spirit of appreciative inquiry, we always then ask ourselves some deeper questions about that. So what is it that we might want to explore more further in terms of thinking about our shining stars? So the second shining star that you told me about was social justice. Many of you talked about the importance of social justice in this congregation, and that over time you have understood it very differently and in different ways. Mother Teresa wrote, "Love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service. Whatever form we are, able or disabled, rich or poor, it is not how much we do, but how much love we put into the doing. A lifelong sharing with others." So many of you talked about, in a variety of ways, that this place gave you a chance to act on your principles, whether it was in exploring more in Black Lives Matter, in participating in the vigil and knowing that it has been going on year after year. A lot of you gave very specific stories about how powerful it was to regularly participate in preparing a meal and assist with a room at the inn, or how being involved in the Meacham Park various activities helped you feel more a part of the larger community and expanded your sense of what Kirkwood is about. So, the appreciative inquiry question is always, if that is true, that for so many of you, it was a way for you to take your values and to live them out more fully. The ongoing question is, how do you continue to do that and help new people find their own ways to live out their values, to find time in busy lives, to be able to make a difference and feel that what matters to them has some sort of connection to how they live their lives? Social justice isn't just about activism, but all of the ways that we work to be sure that immigration rights are upheld, that all people feel that they have access to essential human rights, to caring for this planet. There is so much to do that we each have some way that we can find that connection. The ongoing, important, and wonderful work is to help maximize more people to seek and find that connection. Social justice is one of the stars you've told me about again and again. The next star that you've spoken of very often is music. Plato wrote, "Music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything." A lot of you told me that what either attracted you first to Eliot or kept you here was the music program, both participating in it and enjoying it from the congregation. Music, I think, is especially important to Unitarian Universalists. It really helps us sometimes make connections with the fuller parts of our lives. It often calls us to be more embodied in how we understand ourselves. Music involves the entire body. Music often helps Unitarian Universalists find their deeper feelings and soulfulness in complicated times. Often music is what allows us to find the healing or the sense of deep connection or deep feeling that we need to find in a difficult moment. So, if music is so important to who you are, the other thing that is always an important part of music is that it's also very personal. One of the things that is true and takes a while to really think about how best to live into as a congregation is the reality that even though we may appreciate a wide range of things, for instance, I absolutely adore classical music, but when I turn to music that reminds me of powerful times in my life, whether I like it or not, I return to the music of the 80s. And the thing is that whatever version of that is true for you as well. I mean, there are people I loathed in the 80s that now I listen to them and get a little weepy, like, oh my God, the music then was so wonderful. There is a power in that you just can't fully separate from. And that's why it is especially meaningful. And so many of you have talked about valuing the diversity of music in this place. That really helps us all find a way to access a deeper connection with the congregation, with worship, with ourselves. And so that diversity isn't just about attracting more people, but really helping them find that depth and that power in their own lives. So music is important and always challenges us to be aware of the diversity and allowing a wide range of people to benefit from its healing and empowering love. The fourth star that I heard about from you over and over again is your willingness to struggle and continue to grow and change together. Lynn Unger wrote, "We are saved step by step as we make choices that allow us to grow, to care, to connect, to build. Salvation is the entirety of that journey." Now, this particular shining star may have the distinction out of all of them of being the one that is both referred to most often as the thing that you love deeply about the congregation, how it grows and changes, and the thing that you loathe the most as well, how hard it is to grow and change as a congregation. And many of you would, on one sentence, tell me how much we have to keep moving forward and changing, and then spend about 5 minutes telling me everything that we should do that we no longer do from the past. So human and so actually true in its own right, but finding that balance is difficult. But that is actually part of the power that we take out into our life and have to use again and again. When we practice it here, learning to change together and the difficulty of that is one of the primary things that we can take out into the world every day and learn from and grow from, because the world around us obviously is always changing, and often it is much more painful and powerful than what we have to deal with here. It's just easier to get curmudgeonly about certain things here and feel okay about it. But still, it is one of the ways that we practice the deepest part of what it means to be a spiritual being. To take the world as it is and how it continues to be, and to find our own way to be okay with it, and to work with it, and to find our own journey through it, and help others do the same. So the fourth star that you told me about over and over again is that Eliot has been willing to make those changes over the years, even though sometimes you have to talk about it a lot before you're okay with it. But that is indeed a journey. And ultimately, how it takes you from one place to the other is so essential to what it means to be a congregation. And finally, the thing that I heard often, and there's no particular order to this, but when I thought about something that I heard so significantly, and I don't always hear in some of our congregations, is that you appreciate how this place invites you to a spiritual deepening in your own life. That whatever places you find edgy or rough, in some way this space invites you to move into those difficult places and maybe see them a little bit differently, or be more patient with how you encounter them, or to have the advantage of people just holding your hand as you make your way through something difficult in your own life. So many of you talked about how worship helps do that for you, how taking part in religious education, or sometimes even talking with your kids about what they're learning in religious education, how programs like Wellspring and other spiritual deepening programs, our chalice circles, and various small groups. But most of all, just the way that you journey together, the way you talk with each other and slowly open up more of your lives to each other. That changes your spirit and deepens it just by example and the power of what it means to grow to love one another as a diverse and interesting and ever-changing community. So these are some of the things I've heard you talk about again and again. How community gives you life here. How social justice calls you to be able to make a difference and to act upon your values. How music deepens and helps you understand and encounter powerful feelings with greater grace. How it is that we are called as a group of spiritual people to deepen together, and how change and growth helps you continue to engage the world in a more honest way. So, this is what I've heard. Your assignment, if you will, is to think about what it is that you value here. Perhaps they are in some ways similar to what I've talked about, but just as important, how will you give yourself a little more to the things in the coming months that you believe are guiding stars here? If you believe that it is social justice, how can you both engage more in this time in your own life, but just as importantly, create opportunities? If you believe that community is important, what is it that you are able to do in your life now to offer a little more strength to this community? Whatever it is, there is so much for us to do together and to discover together and journey together. Whatever shining stars make sense for you, let them lead you forward. Let them be something that you share with each other and listen to each other deeply. That's some of the work of this interim time, to take those guiding principles and Really strengthen them and clarify them, and let them help you dream and live into your future. I remind you that this week, for instance, we'll have an opportunity online this Wednesday from 6 to 7:15 to have another Zoom call that talks about the living legacy. You can still sign up for it. And in the new year, we'll talk about a sense of mission in the congregation for the future. I hope you will each be a part of those conversations as we think about the shining stars that lead us forward and what we're called to do. I invite us to join in our closing hymn, hymn number 323. Break not the circle. May we rise in the ways that we do and join together. And now as we prepare to leave this place, may we be awed by the great miracles of light and life, and faithfully nurtured by the mystery and magic of wonder. We extinguish this chalice, but we do not extinguish the wonder of our human lives, the wisdom that we share and learn together, the power of living more fully into what we are called to do. These will remain until we gather in this place again. I invite you to take a seat and receive one final gift this Thank you, one and all, for joining us this morning. We'll see many of you in coffee hour. Hope you have a wonderful week. Blessings, one and all.